I'm Roger Baker, Executive Director of the Stratfor Center for Applied Geopolitics at RANE, a global center of excellence for geopolitical intelligence and analysis. Learn how you can put geopolitics to work for your organization at ranenetwork.com.
Hello and welcome to RANE's Essential Geopolitics podcast. In recent years, several high-profile data breaches have been the result of a lack of multi-factor authentication or other basic cyber hygiene measures. RANE's Hayley Benedict is here to walk us through the potential impact of such lax cybersecurity measures and will share actionable guidance on small steps organizations can take to best protect themselves. So there have been a number of high-profile breaches this year, one being the United Healthcare hack a few months back. Can you talk a little bit about what exactly happened and if there were ways that this event and other recent breaches could have been prevented or avoided altogether?
Yeah, so you mentioned United Healthcare. So this was a hack that happened in late February when a cyber attack took Change Healthcare, which is a subsidiary of the health company United Health. It took their systems offline. And so the CEO of United Health said that the breach of the company was caused by a lack of multi-factor authentication. So United Health initially suspected that this was a state-sponsored actor who was responsible, but then later attributed it to the Russia-based Black Cat ransomware group or an affiliate of the group. But then since then, there have been later reports that come out saying the affiliate actually may have been a Chinese state-sponsored actor using the Black Cat ransomware strain. And this is based on human intelligence with apparent knowledge of the breach and the person who carried it out saying that there was a high probability that the affiliate is associated with China nation-state groups, and then also the fact that the affiliate who breached United Healthcare systems used Cobalt Strike software in the attack, which Chinese state groups often do, but none of this is confirmed, and it's also possible that this actor, even if affiliated with the Chinese state groups, was acting on their own. So that's one major example of something that was based off of a lack of multi-factor authentication and had really far-reaching consequences. And so another one that's maybe more recent would be Snowflake AI and the whole saga that's going on there. And so in this case, in April of this year, threat actors began downloading Snowflake databases and of at least 165 different organizations using credentials stolen by information-stealing malware. And then in June of this year, even more Snowflake customers were targeted. So among some of these were Neiman Marcus, Santander Bank, Pure Storage, Ticketmaster is one that's getting a lot of attention. I know that I got an email from Ticketmaster not too long ago telling me that some of my information might have been impacted in the breach. So these are all targets that have pretty far-reaching consequences. But essentially, this attack, this campaign, impacted accounts that had not configured multi-factor authentication. So Snowflake reiterated repeatedly that this wasn't a breach of its own systems, but its customers that were not using MFA. So this is something that Snowflake doesn't enforce or require, and I think it's now responding to some of this and is talking about whether or not they should be requiring it. So that's something that they're working to address right now. But Snowflake's chief information security officer came out and said this was a targeted campaign directed specifically at users with the single-factor authentication and then using those credentials stolen with the info-stealing malware or obtained from previous data breaches. So that's also kind of just another major example that we're seeing right now of companies that don't have MFA enabled and then it coming back to bite them. Even though it's 2024, MFA is not something that's a new concept. It's not like this thing that's just now being rolled out or that like people are unfamiliar with. Like I think everybody with a digital footprint has at some point probably used it in one way or another. And so it's pretty common. And so it's surprising that there are so many that didn't have it, even just on their Snowflake systems. But another one that's really surprising that's recent is an attack on Microsoft. So a Russian state-sponsored group, Midnight Blizzard, who is also responsible for the 2020 SolarWinds attack, which was another really big deal. They breached Microsoft systems earlier this year in a hack that stole emails from employees and customers along with source code. And so that impacted senior level Microsoft employees and executives, and also a lot of clients. And a lot of Microsoft's clients are government entities too, so a lot of them also were impacted. And it said that hackers were able to breach Microsoft systems because of a legacy account that didn't have multi-factor authentication. And Microsoft is a tech company, like it's not like they're a company that's operating with like a lower level of cybersecurity awareness. Like this is something that's very much ingrained in their models, and so maybe it was a legacy account, so it wasn't something that was major. It was like majorly used all the time, but like nonetheless, and it's an example of a company that's should have cybersecurity really enmeshed in everything they do. That's also been impacted by a lack of MFA on one of their systems.
If companies that are like as globally used as Microsoft are getting attacked in this way, what is the larger impact from these events? I mean, you touched on government accounts being breached. How could these state actors or state-sponsored actors use these gaps to directly attack governments, and what could the fallout from that be?
Yeah, so for Microsoft, it is a Russian state-sponsored group, so it makes sense that they're targeting government systems for intelligence collection, espionage, all kinds of different offensive campaigns. So yeah, they could use these stolen credentials and this like access point to get into cloud accounts for different federal government entities, including they did use it to get into State Department, U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, the Peace Corps, and information like that. So this is a lot of sensitive information on like, I mean, just thinking about the Peace Corps, you're thinking about American citizens abroad working on behalf of the U.S. government, essentially. So there's a lot of different things that this could be used for, mainly just informing Russian intelligence of U.S. operations, and it could have national security implications. And then, like the Peace Corps one, it could potentially have physical safety risks for individuals abroad. Beyond just the federal government, Microsoft senior leadership emails were also stolen, which could be used to further inform breaches into Microsoft systems for other purposes. So it's really just intelligence collection there. Beyond like national security, there are also specific impacts on companies that are affected. So for Snowflake, this is huge. We're talking about huge amounts of private and corporate data that were being stolen from various organizations. So, for example, 30 million of Santander's customers in Chile, Spain, Uruguay were hacked because of the breach. And then Ticketmaster is also facing some ongoing issues, not only with stolen customer data that's being sold on dark web marketplaces potentially, but also with ransom demands and stolen barcodes. So after this happened, threat actors apparently stole data from 560 million Ticketmaster customers, and then they demanded that Ticketmaster pay them $500,000 so the data wouldn't be leaked. And then the same threat actor then a week ago leaked 166,000 Taylor Swift ticket barcodes and then demanded a higher $2 million extortion demand. And then also recently, different threat actors have leaked almost 39,000 print-at-home tickets for 150 different upcoming concerts and events. So that's one like kind of concrete impact, like Ticketmaster's just being extorted, and then there's like actual tickets being stolen that could maybe be used to get into events and stuff. But beyond Snowflake customers and massive data breaches, Snowflake's stock itself, like its stock price, has dipped dramatically, even though its own systems were not the ones that were compromised. But because of the lack of requirement for MFA led to so many of its customers being impacted, it's having a negative reputational impact on the company. And then for United, too, there were also some serious issues with healthcare services. So a lot of doctors' offices and hospitals didn't really have a good cash flow because of that. And this threatened patients' access to care. So Change Healthcare had to shut down parts of its electronic systems, and it disabled U.S. billing and payment systems, and then left providers unable to obtain insurance approval or be paid for a wide range of services, ranging from prescriptions to medical procedures. So it just caused a lot of backup and a lot of problems there. So those are some examples of what the impact is.
Wow. So, I mean, companies are definitely going to be incentivized to do like whatever they can to try and prevent these types of events from happening. Is there anything concrete you can suggest on, I guess, best practices in addition to multi-factor authentication, which I can see is very useful to have in place and to make sure everything is updated from both the company side and the client side? But are there kind of some general best practices or like big concrete things that companies can do to make sure this doesn't happen?
Yeah, so I mean, like you mentioned, we're talking about companies that don't have multi-factor authentication on their accounts. So, I mean, baseline, maybe make sure that you do have that. And it's especially important for essential accounts like email, social media, banking, or anything for work. And then corporate leaders should really try and require that MFA is on all company accounts and devices for all employees. So, just baseline, that's one. But there have also been instances where MFA is not even entirely effective, even though having this can prevent a lot of hacks, because it makes it more complicated. It makes it more difficult to carry something out. But still, I mean, it's not 100% effective. There are ways to bypass it. So this was kind of the case with a hack that happened in September 2023 on MGM Resorts and Caesars Entertainment in Las Vegas. So this had a really big impact where for MGM, the hack lasted 10 days and slot machines went off, elevators broke down, and then staff had to like give out a bunch of free food and beverages and vouchers, and people are estimating they lost as much as $8.4 million per day. And what happened there is that hackers were able to bypass MFA by getting information from employees on LinkedIn and then going to the help desk of the company and trying to like get them to hand over the credentials or just like override the MFA block there. And so that's like one thing that, I mean, everybody should always be careful about what kind of information they're sharing on social media or public-facing accounts, and especially if you're linking these accounts to your company and they could be used against the company. So that's like good cyber hygiene in general is just like making sure that you're taking a privacy-centric approach to social media and internet accounts. But alternatively, beyond just MFA, there's been kind of a push recently for the so-called passwordless future. So one example of this is fast identity online passwordless authentication. So that can confirm a user's presence with a biometric check. It can be a fingerprint, face scan, PIN. Though collecting biometrics does come with its own set of risks. If they're compromised or if collection and storage violates regional regulations. So something else that's becoming really popular are passkeys, which is another alternative for passwords. So these use public key cryptography. So basically when a user creates a passkey with the site, it generates a public-private key pair on the user's device. So it encrypts the data with two different keys. One of them is public and the other one is private. And then the data is encrypted with the public key. So anybody can use that, but it's only for the purpose of encrypting it. But it can only be decrypted with a specific private key. And the private key is not publicly accessible. It's not found anywhere, but it's stored securely on a recipient's device and only there. So it makes it a lot harder to obtain than a password. So Google actually just announced that these passkeys are available for high-risk users that are enrolled in its Advanced Protection Program, which is a free service, and it provides the strongest level of account security for accounts that are maybe at higher risk of being targeted with cyber attacks. So thinking like corporate executives, or in some places, activists, journalists, political teams. So this could be a good option, or any other like similar offerings from different email providers or software providers beyond just Google. Maybe there are similar ones. So this could be something for company leadership or corporate accounts to definitely consider, particularly in sectors that are really high risk or really prone to attempted breaches.
Definitely, I mean, a lot of things that companies can be doing. So thank you for all these insights, Hayley.
Yeah, of course.
Hayley Benedict is one of RANE's cyber analysts, and you can find more of her analyses or learn more about our suite of risk intelligence products and solutions at ranenetwork.com. That's RANE network.com. Thanks for listening.